Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for another episode of Travels. And today I'm talking to Daniel Jackson. And summertime is upon us, and for a lot of people, that's when they get their motorcycle back out. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about motorcycling. So, welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so I just kind of want to jump right in. When did you
Summertime,
get,
huh? I don't know.
yeah, well,
I don't even know. For people who ride motorcycles, there are what we call fair weather riders and all weather riders. And all weather riders will go out and just ride their motorcycle whenever when it's at a temperature that suits them. I have ridden before in 36-degree weather. When you ride a motorcycle, as soon as you go on and start moving, because of the wind chill factor, the temperature drops down another 10 to 15 degrees, sometimes 20 degrees. So like I said, I rode in 36-degree weather. It was more like riding in 16, but I had on the proper gear and a full face helmet, and I was wearing a cold suit, and so I was okay. But by the end of the day, I was freezing. But
yeah.
I was going out doing what I wanted to do, what I enjoy doing. Some of us will take the precautions to do that, and some of us will go, it's not above 70 degrees. I'm not going anywhere. So yeah,
Yeah,
there's
it just
there's a
depends.
difference. Some of us, I'm able to ride a little bit longer. I live down here in southern Arizona. I'm about 12 miles north of the Mexican border, so it's pretty warm here. Like right now, today it's like 74. It's a little cloudy out today, but yesterday it was 91. So
Oh,
you
wow.
go
Yeah.
out and enjoy what you can when you can.
Yeah, completely. So when did you first get your first bike, or do you remember your first
Y
experience with the
yeah,
motorcycle?
my both of my brothers rode motorcycles, and I'd always wanted to ride one. I was very interested in riding, but I never got around to it because I was a musician. I played the drums in a rock band back in the '80s. I had big hair and zebra striped spandex. I thought it was cool, but maybe not so much. But I always had an interest in it. And then there became a point when I was with my first wife, and I was coming to the end of my drumming career. I was like, I'm done with this stuff, and I think I'm going to sell all my drums and then buy a motorcycle. Excuse me. So I did that. Um, Sold everything, and I was going to buy a motorcycle, but I said, I need to find out. So if I can do this, so I talked to my one brother, and I was living in Maryland at the time, but not on the eastern shore of Maryland. And my brother who lived in New Jersey, both of them, I said, "Can you show me how to ride?" So I rode up to New Jersey, and my brother, we went to a parking lot and rode around for a couple hours, and I could do it, but that wasn't everything that I needed to learn. So I bought a motorcycle, and then I took a course so that I could do that, and I did that through the state, and I did that through Delaware, and it was only $50. You can take the state course, or Harley Davidson offers a course as well. It's the same exact course, but Harley Davidson wants to charge you $500 because you're going to ride on a Harley Davidson motorcycle. Okay,
Oh,
you know,
that's a big
I mean,
difference.
yeah, that is a big difference because they think it's more important because you're riding on a Harley Davidson for that. And it's the same course, but I learned a lot through that course. A lot of stuff that I did in that course, I still use today. And I pay attention to everything that I did from then. I still pay attention to now, and so that's a great way to do that. I mean, you can just get a motorcycle and you can get your permit, and that'll allow you to ride around during the day, and you can get some experience in that way. But when you're having someone show you how to do these things, it makes things a lot easier. Like going to school with a teacher, you have teachers who are there, instructors. So I did the course. It was 3 days long. I learned a lot from it. And then after that course, the basic premise of that they tell you is once you get your license, get on a bike, stay on a bike. Because if you don't do that, you're going to forget these skills. And they're absolutely correct. I know some people who had had not ridden for a year until after they did their course, and then they just couldn't figure it out again. So which makes it unsafe for the rest of us. So the proper training before you attempt to get on a motorcycle and go.
Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, I did that, and that was that was 20 years ago. So I think I was 37 when
Oh,
I first
wow.
did this. So
So yeah, it kind of came
yeah,
later in life.
kind of later in my life. Yeah, sure.
Because sometimes
But
I think as
but
kids we see
I
our
was glad I did it.
friends. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, all my friends who I knew were all riding motorcycles, and I made a whole. I mean, I was in the music business for a while, and all my friends were musicians. But then when I started riding motorcycles, I made new friends and new acquaintances. And I have one friend that I was friends with back in Delaware for 18 years from riding. And I still talk to him, but I'm out here in Arizona now. But him and I did everything together. We rode everywhere together. We always enjoyed each other's company, but but that company became we came together because we ride motorcycles. So and then we found out later on we have more of the same interest. But the
Yeah.
initial being motorcycles, and we took lots of trips together, lots of trips. So really enjoyed it.
Can you share a memorable moment from one of your journeys that you took? I'm sure there's many now.
Yeah, well, one of my favorite trips that I took was we rode to Tennessee. We had a group of friends that when I first started riding motorcycles, there was a shop in town that I went to, and the owner of the shop said, "We get together here on Saturdays. I'm open on Saturdays from 9 until 1. We hang out, we talk, there's donuts here, there's coffee. And then sometimes we get together and go for a ride on later that day, or we go to rides on Sundays." So
Mm.
they said, just come out to the shop and hang out. So I started doing that, and that's how I started meeting people. And then I met this other guy online on a site that was for a particular motorcycle. No, it was my first motorcycle, which was the Suzuki Intruder 800. They call it a Volusia now. And so I met him through that, and then it was like a year later, he called me up on the phone and said, "Hey, Dan, remember I said I was going to move that way?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I live now in Salisbury, Maryland," which was like 30 minutes away from me. I said, "Awesome." So we got together, and that's my buddy Paul, who I do all the trips with. And there was a trip going where some of the guys were going to leave, and they were going to go from Maryland over to Tennessee because they're going to ride a road over there. It's a popular road. It's the road is called the Tail of the Dragon,
Tail
and
of
they
the
call it the
dragon.
Tail of the
Huh.
Dragon because the road is 11 miles long with 318 turns in it. So it's kind of very curvy with these turns. Some of them are hairpin turns. It's a sort of dangerous road because it's a two-lane public road. And some of these turns are so tight that a tractor trailer could be coming the other way. And if it does, it takes out both lanes. And the next thing you know, boom.
Right.
So you have to be very careful. You got to be a very experienced rider to ride this. I had been riding maybe, let's see, about 5 years at that point. So my skills were good enough for that. Um, and this road, again, with all those turns, they have a down at the end of it, there's a like a little motel there and some shops that sell T-shirts, that I rode a
Right.
tail of the dragon, all that stuff, the
Yeah.
touristy stuff. But there's also this tree sitting there out front with no leaves on it, and they have stringed up all these motorcycle parts on it. And they call it the tree of shame,
Yeah.
shame because of people who get into accidents and
Right.
break pieces of their motorcycle off, and then they hang it from. And but there's lots of videos about this road, A Tail of the Dragon. So my buddies all went out there, and then me and my buddy, I only had 3 days I could go. So me and my buddy Paul, I left at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I met up with him down in like an hour away. And then we rode from there all the way over to Tennessee. We rode to Virginia, and then we went straight across that point of getting into Virginia straight across the border of the states that were there all the way to Tennessee. It took 12 hours to get there.
Wow.
We did not take breaks. We stopped for one time for lunch, but only the breaks we took were just to get gasoline. I mean, we were just hauling butt over there.
Yeah.
Um, it was a long trip, uh, but we did 763 miles in 12 hours, and that's the longest trip that I've ever taken. Just a consecutive trip. Where I've done other trips where I've done a trip with my wife at that time from Delaware or from Maryland. I wasn't too far from Delaware. Um, all the way down to Myrtle Beach, but we did that in 2 days. This one we just did in one day. By the time we got to our hotel, we dropped off our stuff. We went to the restaurant downstairs. We got something to eat. We went back up to the hotel, and he turned the TV on. We laid in bed, and I don't even remember falling asleep. It was just out,
Yeah, I would have been
exhausted. But
exhausted. Yeah.
so yeah, it was fun. I mean, because when we got into Tennessee, all the roads were kind of hills and curves and stuff. It was really really neat. Um, and then we met up the very next day with the guys who had already been there, and they were staying in a cabin. So we left our hotel and went to stay at the cabin. We we were staying at this cabin. The cabin was 3.4 miles up and also 47 turns.
Oh,
Um, it was just going. There was one part of the way up that we went over this curvature hill. I mean, basically like a really short bridge where it just went where my friend Paul was in front of me. He went over the hill and I couldn't even see him anymore. Just like on a roller coaster, just
right.
like kind of
Yeah.
disappeared. Not
Right.
not the type of road you want to experience because there are dangers to that as well, where you don't know what's coming on from the other side. So you got to be very careful. But then I went over, and then we made our way up to the cabin. And when we got up there, we were on a hill, and here's the cabin right in front of us. And I said, "Where are we going to park?" And my one friend who came and got us said, "We all have to park our bikes together." Now, normally when you put a motorcycle, parking, you're here, and the next guy is maybe 2 or 3 feet away, so you can stand your bike
Right.
up off the kickstand. You're not running into anyone's motorcycle. There's some etiquette to riding motorcycles. You don't want to park too close to somebody, but people still do it. People are just people.
Yeah.
So we had to park all of our motorcycles together. If we wanted to go anywhere, we all had to leave together because
Yeah.
the parking lot was on a hill. There was only one spot that we could all be together. There was 8 of us there with all our bikes together, and there was no other place to park because if you did, your bike would just roll down the
Oh
hill.
my gosh. Wow.
Um, it was kinda crazy. We actually left. We dropped off of our stuff when we got to the hotel, or I mean, to the cabin, and then we left and went back down the mountain. This mountain, again, it was such on a slope all the way down. Normally, when you ride a motorcycle, you pull your clutch in to, shift the gears. Well, I didn't even use my throttle. I just pulled my clutch in and coasted all the way down the hill, 55 miles an hour.
Wow.
Just going
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kinda a little bit scary. I
Yeah.
know the day before my buddy and I got there, our friends who had gotten there, one of the friends, when they first pulled up there, they parked their bikes and then did the same thing, and he went back down the mountain. He missed one of the turns and wrecked his bike, and they actually sent he had to go home in an ambulance. But
Oh
so
my gosh.
so that's the type of, issues that occur. And down there in, Tennessee, in this part of Tennessee, there's no streetlights and there's no guardrails anywhere. And the problem with that is where you are, especially in this one area, if you miss a turn, you're going off the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
So, depending upon how high that part of the mountain is or where it's at the slope, you never know what's gonna happen, especially on that particular road, the Tail of the Dragon, I've seen many of the videos. I watched as many videos. I try to do as much research before I go someplace. And I saw videos where there was a camper going around this bend in the turn, and another guy who had no patience tried to pass him. And when he did, the turn was so tight, he went right off the edge. And it's like watching, he just went off the edge through some shrubbery and just disappeared.
Right.
And then people, his friends were stopping and yelling at the people in the camper like it's their fault, but it's not. This guy
No.
made the decision to try to pass them. So
Right.
so we made I had to be very precise in the way I rode through this road, make good conscious decisions, try to pay attention to what I'm doing. I had a fun time. I didn't get out of third gear. You never went over 35 miles an hour, but you didn't want to do that anyway because there were police on the road trying to catch people going over 35 miles an hour. Because
Yeah.
a lot of guys will ride this ride as practice because they are racers or something like
Oh.
that, motorcycle racers and stuff. So a lot of them are going really fast or super fast, you know. But it was neat to see some car clubs go through and some guys on these like smaller looking mini bikes go through. It was really fun. It was really neat to see. And then of course I got a T-shirt that said, you know, I survived the
Yeah,
dragon.
exactly.
But it was fun. It was a beautiful area, mountains everywhere, because and of course where we were, motorcycles everywhere. We saw a guy in the parking lot try to go out of the parking lot. And he had to go up the hill of the driveway, and he didn't have enough speed and has dropped his bike. So, you know, other motorcyclists are like, "Oh no!" And 20 people run over there and try to pick his bike up. And
Right.
everybody in the motorcycle community, a lot of people are very friendly with each other. You know, we do there's a thing that you do when you're riding down the road and you see other motorcyclists coming past you. We wave to each other, and the way that we wave to each other is we take our two fingers like this and point it down on the ground, meaning keep your two wheels up. You know, so
Oh, yeah.
and people just ride. That's the secret wave that we do, and people see that all the time and go, "What's that supposed to mean?" We're just waving to each other. We don't know
Right.
who we are, but we are consciously saying, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, good to see you out."
Right.
That type of thing. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, there is that. But that was a really fun trip. My friends, they after I went through the dragon, I went through it the first time. They took me down another road. I kept on going, and there's because you're on a mountain, there's water coming down from the side of the mountain across the road, just a little stream. And I was like, oh, so we rode through that real slow. And I didn't know where they were taking me. And when they got me to this one spot, there was a dam there. And
Huh.
this is the dam that was in the movie The Fugitive with Harrison Ford.
Oh, wow.
It was really beautiful to see, but it's not as big as it was in the movie.
Right.
It's just,
Yeah.
you know, they make it look bigger, but it was really neat to see. And then they took me back the other way, so we did the dragon again. And then they took me to some other park that we went through, and the park was the same way. It had all these curvy turns and everything. Just beautiful area. Just it was an amazing trip. Even the trip back. When we went through that park, they took us this just middle of nowhere road, and all of a sudden, boom, we're right there, and there's this big development there, and it's a big industrial park, and it's where they Bush's beans. So it was
Oh,
just in the middle of nowhere. I was just
yeah.
like, this is
Oh,
kind of
wow.
strange. It's just
Yeah.
nowhere. But I mean, even on the way back, we left. This was 2007, so there was a drought going on, and we were going over this one bridge, and you could look down, and there was boats sitting on the ground because the water was going from this lake, and we rode past Dollywood. We saw
Oh,
it was
yeah,
closed, but
yeah.
it was on a Sunday, but it was huge. It was really neat to see. I just a the most beautiful area I'd ever seen prior to coming to where I live now. But yeah, but it was an enjoyable trip. It was again, it lasted 3 days long. We rode down in one day. The very next day, we woke up and went to this Tail of the Dragon, and then the very next day we left, and we did that whole trip all the way back in one day as well.
The 12 hours back. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
and then I had to go to work on Monday.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, I was dragging my butt, so
Yeah,
but
I bet.
I enjoyed myself. Got lots of pictures. I sent you some of the pictures. I mean, I'm standing there talking on the telephone, and I was talking on the telephone because I was just calling my brother, saying, "Yeah, I just got done riding the tail of the dragon. It was amazing," and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And somebody took a picture of me while I was doing that. So, but
Nice.
yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. So when you're on a motorcycle, you don't have a lot of room for packing, so you need to learn to kind of
Correct.
be. So do you
Yeah,
have?
you got to get really good at it because I would bring two pairs of pants with me. One I'm wearing a pair, and the other pair is in my bag. You bring a certain amount of socks, certain amount of underclothing, certain amount of t-shirts. Motorcyclists we like to, but you always have to make sure if you're someone like me, you're going someplace new, you're going to buy something we call swag, and that is
Oh,
stuff that you're buying that's along the way as souvenirs. And I used to do that for years and years and years. I probably there's a there was a bike week that would happen near me in Delaware. That was in Ocean City, Maryland, so it was about an hour away. And I went to the bike week 21 times.
oh
So
wow.
I would always get T-shirts. I get these mugs. I have this mug here, um, and the mug is from the bike week, and I have 13 of those. It's a commemorative type
Yeah.
thing, but yeah, I have them all hanging on my wall in my bedroom. But you get this stuff. You collect stuff, so you gotta make sure in your packing that you have enough room for that as well too. So, yeah, I got a bunch of T-shirts, but, I don't do that anymore because it's just, I have a
Yeah.
gazillion T-shirts. How many am I gonna wear in a week, 7,
Right.
that's it. So,
Right.
yeah.
Exactly.
So, but you do collect things, you do pick up things. I know there's this, deal where you go to different if you're a Harley rider. I ride Harleys, but I just love all motorcycles. I've had all different brands of motorcycles. So, the Harley guys, you go there, they sell more T-shirts and more, swag stuff than they do actual motorcycles, it seems. And they have these, like, little commemorative things. It's a poker chip, and
Right.
people like to go to different dealerships and collect the poker chips. And, when we were coming across, uh from the Virginia border all the way across over to Tennessee on the highway, there was one of 3 things or 2 or all 3 altogether. Every time they had one of these, gas stops, they had either a Harley Davidson dealership there, a Hooters, or a Cracker Barrel.
Oh.
It was just one of those 3 or all 3. So, there Harley Davidson dealerships are just everywhere. There's a lot less now than there used to be because motorcycles are becoming, the industry is kind of slowing down and they're not selling as well anymore. So, but, I have 2 of them, 2 dealerships here near me, but they're up in Tucson, and that's about an hour away from me. I have another one that's over in Tombstone, but it's just a T-shirt shop. They used to have a shop here in the town I lived in, but it closed down about maybe 3 years ago. So, but people like to ride from one to the other. With the newer model Harley Davidsons, some of them have GPS in them, and the GPS will allow you to pick, will tune into different Harley dealerships. So if you need that for your destination to find out where you're going, you could just punch in that particular one. It'll give you directions, and you just go, and makes it easier for some people.
Yeah.
Me, I'm not so much on GPS. I mean, I use it in my car, but for me, I like to just get on my motorcycle some days and just pick a direction and go, and that's how I ride. And I've been doing that for 20 years, and it's never failed me. You're never getting lost because every part of that ride is part of the journey. So you're just finding new places to go, and there's always signs, there's always people. You can always ask for directions if you need it, and that's the way that I go. I do ride with other people. I belong to an American Legion here in Arizona. My wife is a veteran. I'm just a veteran of her crap, and so that's how I tell people. And but I join that, and I go on rides with them a lot. And I also have some other friends here in town that I go riding with. But a lot of times, like my wife and I yesterday. She just got her motorcycle license and she has a motorcycle, but she doesn't really feel comfortable in it a whole lot. So she went and just a couple of weeks ago bought a something called a Can-Am. It's a
Oh,
three
what's
wheel,
that? Oh, a
and
three-wheeler, yeah.
but it's two wheels in the front and one in the back instead of two in the back and one in
Oh.
the front. And it drives more like a supercharged go kart. This
Oh.
thing is super fast. It's fun. I'm going to ride it today because we just put a new windshield on her now to make sure it's okay. But her and I went for a ride yesterday. We went for lunch, and it was about an hour away. So we just get on and go, and we just go out and have a good time because we enjoy our company anyway. But this is something else that she has wanted to do. She didn't get her license until she was 60 years old.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah,
Yeah, I was
but
gonna
sh
ask
and
about
she
that,
sh
like if there were favorite types of roads that you prefer riding on, or I like that you like to just get
smooth
out
ones.
smooth ones.
Yeah, I prefer smooth ones. You don't find that very often over here in Arizona, especially where I live. The roads are what, anything else called chip and tar, where it's like little
Yeah.
tiny slivers of, and then they put tar over it. Well, the chip and tar here, because of the weather here in the summertime. Where I live, it's about, it gets maybe like 90 degrees, but there's no humidity. The humidity is very low. Back in Delaware, if it was 90 degrees, the humidity would be like 83%. So you're constantly sweating all the time. But here, not so much. But because that sun is so strong here, it does things get very hot. So the chip and tar here, there's more tar to it, but the chip is more like pebbles.
Mhm.
So it's very thick and it's very motorcycle vibrates when you go. It's like riding over a cheese grater.
Oh
Okay,
no.
so yeah, it's so some of the roads are. I used to wear what's called a half helmet all the time, where it just covered the top half of my head. Um, Not here. Ever since I've been here, I wear a full face helmet because if you go down here, yeah, that road is going to tear you up. So I decided I started wearing one of those. But yeah, I prefer flat roads. I mean, in Delaware, all the roads were flat, and there was no hills to them. Whereas here, there's a lot more hills. There's a road that I take from my town here called Sierra Vista, and 18 miles northeast of it is Tombstone, Arizona, where the movie was.
Yeah, right.
And so I go there all the time, but that road is twisty and turny, and you're going uphill the whole entire time. The elevation here is 4,300 feet, and then you go up to 5,300 feet once you get there.
Oh,
Um, and yeah, that was a difference for me too. When I first came out here to Arizona, I got elevation sickness because I came from an elevation of 0 in
right.
Delaware all the way out here. So you are susceptible to the weather um, out in Delaware because they're just homes everywhere. In Delaware, the square mileage is 2,200 square miles, and there was 996,000 people in that. Okay,
Wow.
so it's a small, very small state, but a lot of people. But that was in the regular time of year. In the summertime, it was more like 2 million people.
Oh,
And
wow.
my wife and I lived right next to the highway that went to a beach town. So 12 miles north of us was a Dover Air Force Base. 15 miles south of us was this place called Rehoboth Beach. And then you eventually get into Maryland, and that's Ocean City, Maryland. But the traffic, they fixed the highway supposedly. And then, so I think maybe 3 years before we left, 3 or 4 years before we left, it was getting to the point where there was traffic. It used to come down on Friday and then they would leave on Sunday. Now they come down on Wednesday.
Oh.
And yeah, so it's bumper to bumper traffic from 12 miles north of us to 15 miles south from Wednesday to Sunday. Sunday, you couldn't even go anywhere because they were all leaving and there was no place to go because they would take up the highways. You couldn't get anywhere.
Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons why we left. But but here there's no traffic whatsoever. Traffic here is three cars in front of you. So yeah,
Yeah,
and you rarely ever see it.
that's a big
But it
difference. Yeah.
but the roads here are more hilly and but here Mountains everywhere. Just we're surrounded by mountains. Back in Delaware, just you're surrounded by homes. And back in Delaware, it would be, the sky would get dark and just rain. You couldn't see a storm
Right.
coming. Here in Arizona, the the visual, there's not a lot of homes here. Just in the county that I live in is 6,200 square miles. Most of it's desert, and there's only 100,000 people. So I can go outside of my house, outside of our little development, and I can see 50 miles away. You can
Yeah.
see mountains that are 50, 100 miles away. And so when a storm comes, you can actually see it coming. And you just see this cloud, what looks like a cloud, but it's a whole, area of
Right.
maybe a couple
Yeah.
hundred miles. You just see it coming towards you. And with that coming towards you, you look at it and go, huh, well, if I take a left turn, I'll completely avoid it. And you do.
And you do, huh?
Yeah. Or if I take a right turn, I'll get to go around it and there won't be no problems. But and you're able to do that sometimes, but you do get I've been caught in the rain a couple times. Riding in rain, you got to make sure your face is covered because when you're doing, just imagine like when you're driving in a car and a bug hits your windshield. Well, you hear that click, you know.
Yeah.
Well, when you're riding on a motorcycle and if you don't have your face covered, that click is your face,
Yeah.
and it feels like, especially when rain hits your face, it feels like you're getting hit with pins and needles.
Oh my gosh.
It stings.
Yeah.
So it's good to have a face covering. Like I said, I used to wear a half helmet all the time, and I got caught in the rain. You felt it, and your face was just stinging and burning. But now, I wear the full face helmet. But here in Arizona, as soon as the rain comes through, it could be like 80 degrees out, and then when that rain comes through, the temperature drops 20 degrees, goes right down
Oh
to 60.
wow. Yeah.
And that rain that hits you is cold. That cold water it's really cold, and I'm getting older, so my grip is not as great. So when my hands or whatever, when I get cold, I get really cold, and it gets hard to function. So you got to be very conscientious again with the weather, with your surroundings. One of the things I loved about riding in Delaware is the smell out in the air. You're riding around because you can't really smell that in a car where
Yeah, no.
I ride past an area and I smell honeysuckle or I smell pine trees or something like that. But there was also the other part because I lived in Delaware, and that's around where Purdue Farms is. So you're always smelling chicken shit or horse shit
Oh,
or something like
great.
that. Or yeah, you're smelling the farms, so and it's not always a pleasant smell. Um, but out here, the desert, I mean, I smell flowers sometimes, but the desert where I live in is not like you think. Like you think automatically, okay, it's just going to be desert sand everywhere, but it's not. There's trees around here. There is shrubberies around here. There's a lot of mesquite trees and these other. But you got to be very careful, not just with the weather when you're riding your motorcycle. You have to be conscientious of your surroundings as well. Where back in Delaware, there were a lot of accidents with motorcycles
Oh,
because of deer coming up. We have deer here, but again, if you have a dog or a cat ran out in front of you, a rabbit's run out in front of you, a squirrel or a raccoon, out here we have to be aware of the something called a javelina that looks like a small pig.
oh, I
Um,
didn't even know you
but
had those
but
there.
yeah, they have tusks, so you don't want to be around them anyway because they will attack you. But we have javelinas, we have coyotes here, we have mountain lions here. I was riding down the road going towards Tombstone, and a mountain lion ran right in front of me. So you got to be
Wow.
aware of that. We got the deer here, with rattlesnakes here. So you got to be very conscientious of what is around you, knowing what can or could be around you, and again, learning from the motorcycle course, you learn to look out of your peripherals.
Mm-hmm.
My peripherals are not as good as they used to be because I think they get a cataract surgery soon tomorrow, but they'll be better. I know they will. But you learn to pay attention on what's by both sides of it. If you ever see motorcycle riders, you may see somebody sitting on the back of the motorcycle looking all around. You don't see the guy in front doing that.
No.
He's looking at stuff and you're enjoying yourself, but you're paying attention to everything around you, what's going on, because you have to. You have to be aware not just of the animals that come around, but cars that come out,
Right.
people come out. They'll just walk out in the middle of the street right in front of you. So we are taking a chance every single day that we walk out of our house and get onto that motorcycle. But you're taking a chance every single day you come out of your house and do anything.
Yeah.
Doesn't make a difference if you're riding a motorcycle or driving a car. You're still taking a chance. You know, you're getting on the bus. You know, maybe you go to get on the bus and you slip and fall, and the bus runs you over. Who knows? So
Yeah.
you got to be very conscious of everything around you. You know, be very aware of what's going on around you, your surroundings. So, but it's not for everybody. I know some people I've seen who have taken the course and they quit, you know, because they feel this is what they want to do, but then they find out, oh, I'm scared of this. So, you know, it's not for everybody. That's why the road isn't completely filled with motorcycles. But when you're riding one, you see them all the time because you pay attention because that's who you are. Uh,
Right.
but uh, but it is very enjoyable. I love doing it. I've been doing it for 20 years. I have no plans of stopping anytime soon. It becomes an addiction. You get a motorcycle. It's like a painting. You know, you start with your blank canvas. You get a standard motorcycle, and then you start changing parts or putting things on it. We call them doing modification, doing mods, and you change it, and you turn the bike into your own. You make it. You know, you put your loud pipes on there if you want loud
Right.
pipes or
Yeah.
quiet pipes, or you put your different filters on there, and you put different handlebars and mirrors and all bags and all kinds of stuff, and you turn it into your own thing. And I've been doing that for it's not cheap. So
Yeah, I was gonna
you
say.
have to understand that, or you just ride a standard bike and go on about your way. It's about what you want to do, what you think is best for you, and you paint it different colors. You do all kinds of stuff, but it is fun. I've been doing it for, like I said, 20 years, and I've had I don't know. I think I'm on my eighth or ninth bike right now.
Oh,
So
really? Oh, wow.
yeah, I mean, I like a lot of the Harley Davidson rider guys. They are fanatical about, oh, I got to get this model because it's got this thing on it. It's got this thing on it. It's got this thing
Oh,
on it. And then Harley, they know how to market that stuff. They market all kinds of parts for it. You put them all on, and then within a year, guess what? They come up with another brand new model, and the brand new model has this and this and this on it. And they go, "Oh man, I got to trade my bike in so I get a." So they just spent, you know, twenty
yes.
thousand dollars on a bike, $10,000 on adding stuff to it, and then at the end of the year, they come out with a new bike with one or two more things on it, or a bigger engine or something like that, and then they got to have it. So then they trade it in, you know, and they lose money on that. But they think they're getting a great deal, but they're not. And then, uh, and then they start the whole process all over again. I know guys who get a new bike every year.
Wow.
They're
Yeah,
never
they just
satisfied.
yeah, there are some people like that with cars or I think anything,
Yeah,
cameras,
it's the same
whatever it
thing with
is. They
cars. And
just
I tell
kind
people all the time, Harley Davidson loves you kind of people
of
because
yeah.
they're always getting money out of you. But
Yeah.
I tend to have a bike and I hold on for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's smart.
yeah.
Have you seen a lot of changes in the last 10 years of writers and what types
More
of people?
women riders.
Oh, more women writers. That's
More
interesting.
women riders. Yeah, when I first started riding, I didn't see that many, but around 2008, 2009, I started seeing more women riders, and that's great. You know, I mean, it's cool that they're getting into it now, and they found out they have so much more freedom out there, and the companies have been really um, forthgoing with coming out with stuff for women riders too. I mean, uh, I remember my sister-in-law started riding, and of course she's into the color pink.
Oh,
And
yes.
by the time she got finished, she had so much pink stuff on, she looked like a Pepto Bismol bottle riding down the
Right.
road. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm not riding with that, okay, because that's a little crazy, right? But and then they have some helmets that have like implanted pigtails hanging
Yeah,
off
I've
of them,
seen
and
kind of all
all
that.
kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, my wife, she doesn't. subscribe to that whatsoever. She doesn't want to wear a bunch of pink and all that stuff. She just wears a black leather vest or whatever. And she this Can-Am she bought is the color of like a highlighter, so it's super brightish,
Oh,
yellowish, greenish looking thing.
yeah,
But
and
cool.
speaking on colors and stuff, are there tips for people as far as safety? Do you think having a bright colored garment, I mean, do you think some of those things help you be more visible when you're out there
They
riding? Or
do to an extent, but when people are driving cars, they're not looking for a motorcycle. They're looking for another car.
yeah,
But the problem we have today is most people are just not paying attention. The reason being is because why? They're on their telephone, doing something they shouldn't be doing while driving a car.
mm-hmm.
Or, they're intoxicated or, they're under the influence of something and shouldn't be driving a car whatsoever. So that's why we continue to have accidents. But the real reason we continue to have accidents is because we invented something that enables us to not have to walk. So
Yeah,
we created our own problems. We've done all this stuff. But you can put on all the brightly colored stuff that you want to, but you have some people who are just, too disabled or too old to drive and they're still out there driving, or like I said, they're just not paying attention, or they're listening to their music so loud that when they drive past you just feel the car going.
yes,
They're paying more attention to that than they actually are their own car. They go, oh, listen to that guy. They turn their head around and boom, so they're it's just the lack of attention. You can they say within the motorcycle community, loud pipes save lives.
hmm.
They do to an extent, but no more than, a loud car with a loudspeaker system saves lives. It doesn't, it grabs people's attention. Sometimes it throws them off, and then when they
Yes,
throw them off, then they
yeah,
turn the wheel, and then there they go, and then you get into an accident. So, is there absolutely anything that you can wear that's going to prevent that? No. There's companies that make horns for motorcycles because the average motorcycle horn sounds like the Roadrunner, meep meep.
oh,
So even
yeah,
these big giant bikes, meep meep. So uh, yeah. But so they make some horns that are louder than that. But you don't want a horn that's going to scare the crap out of somebody. And
yes,
some of these horns do, and they think, "Oh, I'm getting somebody's attention." No, you're scaring the crap out of them. You don't want to hear a train horn next to you on the highway. That's going to scare somebody and cause do maybe they get away from you and then they run into someone else. Did that really
yes,
help the situation?
yeah,
No, it didn't. So they overcompensate a lot of times with particular items, and you got to pay attention to that as well. Um, you do the best you can. Again, we're all taking a chance when we leave our homes, but i-
yes,
if
it's
you
true.
if you think this is fun and this is what you want to do, well then by all means have at it. The best thing that you can do is make sure that you are up on your skills and you are very safe and very aware of your surroundings and you pay attention. It's not as motorcyclists always say about dropping their motorcycle. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. It's going to happen.
Right.
You can put safety gear like my new bike. I have something called engine guards, but motorcycle guys like to call it crash guards. If the bike tips over, this thing is going to keep it from going
Oh,
all the way over. You have to learn to be able to pick your motorcycle up if you do drop it. But
right.
then again, like my wife's her new bike, which is this Can-Am Spider, it's on three wheels. There's no kickstand. You just,
Yeah,
get
you
off
just
of it. That's it.
right, right.
Yeah, it's pretty. But they do accommodate us in certain ways. But before you do anything like driving a car or driving a motorcycle or anything that you're going to operate on the highway, be aware of your surroundings and make sure that you're paying attention, follow the rules, and try not to get in an accident. Try not to do stupid stuff. We have a lot of unfortunate incidents where these younger guys who like to ride these sport bikes. Now, I've had a sport bike, but I didn't do the stupid stuff they were doing. I mean, I have gone fast on it, but these guys are doing wheelies down the street and
Yeah,
they don't care about anybody else. And, it's just not the way to be. So, but to each his own. You're going
right.
to go out there and enjoy this what we call a sport the way that you're going to enjoy it. But be conscientious of other people, and they're wanting to go out and do the same thing, and don't try not to ruin their day just because you want to impress your friends doing a wheelie. It's just,
Yeah,
not
exactly.
the best thing to do. But
Are yeah. Are there certain websites that you know of or
Um, well,
places
you can
that
find groups on Facebook that can. I have a certain motorcycle called a Harley Davidson Street Glide, and I'm on a Street Glide owners page on there.
okay.
For my wife's Can-Am, we're on a Can-Am owners page on there. If you go on, if you're into Harley Davidsons, they have the Harley Davidson forums, and you can go on there, and people talk about things all there all the time. I used to have a Honda VTX 1300 custom. It was just a particular model of VTX. There was a website on there for VTX. Met my friend Paul, I had that Suzuki Intruder, so I was on an Intruder site. So there's many sites out there that
I
you
was
can find that has something to do with your particular motorcycle or your particular brand. There's always sites out there. You'll find them. Just punch it in and punch in forums, some particular words that is going to equate to that, and you'll find something. Or you're going to meet other people who, like my wife and I were looking for a windshield, so I went on
oh
the
yeah.
for the Can-Am, and I asked about it, and I got probably 4 or 5 different websites to look on from people answering the questions. So
Yeah. I was thinking about
they're out
routes
there.
for routes though, like specific motorcycle
Oh, for
routes.
routes?
Yeah, like that, just like anything,
Um,
certain routes might be better
any
for
road. Any
beginners or
road that doesn't turn into a dirt road is a great road for me. I've had that issue where when I first moved here to
yeah.
town, I was just going around town and somebody told me about that, but I didn't think anything of it. And I was going down a road and all of a sudden the road went downhill and immediately turned into a gravel dirt road. And I was like, oh no. And I was on a 750-pound motorcycle.
Yeah.
So trying to stop that on dirt and gravel, the bike starts sliding all over the place. You don't want to drop it. So but there are other motorcycles out there that you can do that. They have sport touring, they have on off-road bikes where you can ride them on regular streets, but also in dirt roads. So there's all particular kinds of motorcycles for doing that stuff, but you don't want to ride a 750-pound motorcycle and all of a sudden it turns into dirt. It's
Yeah.
very hard to stop, or if there's a lot of dirt or sand on the road, it becomes, how it is hard to walk through the beach, you're slipping and falling.
Right,
And
right.
now
Well,
you're
that's what I was
750
wondering,
pounds.
if
Yeah,
there was a certain website, because oftentimes, if someone puts in on their Google Maps or something, it's just assuming you've got a car versus I didn't,
correct,
instead of
correct.
correcting.
I know there's a group around here that goes on like dirt roads and stuff like that. But again, if you're looking for something for that, I would just put in the type of motorcycle you have, or look for something called adventure rides. And when you do
Hmm.
adventure riding, then a lot of that is off road. So and that's because you have an adventure touring bike. So
Yeah.
just put in the type of motorcycle that you have and punch in and see what brings it up, and you do that in a Google search, and it'll bring up all kinds of things. But
Because at
yeah,
least with
and
at least
again,
at least with the old paper maps, you can actually look and see which roads are
yeah,
paved, which ones are go to gravel. So sometimes if you're new to the area or thinking about traveling to an area, just going and actually looking at an old-fashioned paper map and kind of seeing what kind of
correct.
surface it has would be helpful.
Yeah, we always keep paper maps around the house because you just never know. If GPS is not working that day. So yeah, absolutely. But not all the roads here show that it's
Yeah.
going from regular road right to dirt road. So yeah, because of some of the paper maps, they don't keep them up as much as now as they do with GPS because GPS is used so much around here.
Yeah. Do you have tips for people that are planning a long type, longer motorcycle
Yeah,
journey?
yeah, absolutely. Make sure you're planning your trip, especially with the type of clothes that you wear. It's good to keep good gear on you. If I take a long trip, I make sure I have a good type of jacket, the protection. Not just from the elements around us, but in case you do have an accident. So always never wear. But I see people do it all the time. Don't ride in bare feet.
Oh,
You
I
know,
know. Oh, I see
Don't
that
ride in
too.
flip-flops. Uh, I prefer not to ride in shorts, and I'll tell you for that reason. When you're riding down the road, the reason you have fenders on your motorcycle is because stones and stuff get
Oh,
picked up from the road, and your fenders keep that from, you see mud flaps and on trucks and stuff like that. Same thing. You don't know what's going to come up off that road, and something. I have been hit in the face with my half helmet on by bugs. To cut my nose
yeah.
open.
Oh,
So when you're riding down the street and you have no foot protection on, you have no idea what's gonna. My brother used to ride with shorts all the time. He'd come home and his legs would be completely black from all the tar and all that stuff
yeah.
coming up off the road. So I suggest, sneakers. I wear sneakers once in a while, but I prefer to wear like a boot, like motorcycle boots. Motorcycle gloves are a good idea.
Oh, yeah.
A good leather jacket or a leather vest is good to wear, or some type of other riding jacket. I suggest there are lots of people who want to ride free, meaning they don't want to wear a helmet. How much is your head worth to you?
Yeah.
Because yeah, so I have a really nice helmet. I paid like $350 for it. Both my wife have it, but they make some helmets that are $700. It all depends on what you feel. The type of helmet we have is called a modular helmet where you can lift the chin up over. But our
Oh,
our chin, this is a new model. The chin thing actually goes to the back of your head, where a lot of them have just come up here and it sits up here.
right. Yeah.
But to put it up here and then ride in that wind resistance is not good for your neck. So there are different types of helmets that weigh different
Oh, that's true.
some are heavier than others. So we try to find a lighter helmet, but one with good protection. But always wear your motorcycle gear because again, you're not certain of what's going to happen that day. And um, I was riding years ago. I was out on this date with this girl. She had her own bike, and I'm riding. And, I had a full face helmet on because I had a sport bike at that time, and she had little, Harley Davidson Sportster, and she was wearing a half helmet. And we were riding at nighttime going this is back in Delaware, between these 2 fields and it was at that time of night is when the bugs started coming out.
Oh,
Well,
right. Yeah.
what came out were grasshoppers,
Right.
and they were flying across the road, and we're flying through them at 50 miles an hour, and I could feel them hitting my helmet going, "Poop, poop, 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 poop."
Yeah.
She had no face covering on. I know she got beat up by it. She had bruises on her face by the time we got through. But then when I was riding through, I saw something out of my corner eye and I tried to duck and I got hit in the head by a bat. I mean, a bat came
Oh.
flying by and boom, hit me in the head. And I was like, oh my
Oh
gosh,
my gosh.
I, there was a time when I was riding with my ex-wife down this road and I saw something standing on the side of the road and I was like, and I then I just immediately hunched down like this, and then
Yeah.
she hunched down. It was a turkey,
Oh, it
and the
was a
turkey
turkey.
decided it decided it was gonna fly across the road. I hunched down, and as I hunched down, my wife hunched down, I could feel the wings brush the top of my back. If I had been sitting up, this turkey was big, it would have took us out. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they are big.
So you got, or if deer come across the road, you got to make sure you don't know what is going to happen. So before you go out, the best thing to do is gear up. Make sure that you're protected. Make sure your head is protected. That's the most important thing. Make sure your hands are protected or your feet. You can wear jeans. You're going to hit the ground. You're still going to get something we call road rash, where you just get kind of scraped up, burnt up from the road. But something in between you and the road is a good thing to have on. So that's why I say don't wear shorts, wear jeans, have some type of protection. Um, you know, good eyewear is a good thing to
Oh,
do.
yeah.
I know guys that ride around with helmets on and they have no sunglasses on or anything like that, and they get smacked in the face with a bug. Well, I got smacked the other day with a bug and it hit the side of my helmet. It was a big one. I saw it coming like the
Yeah.
size of a golf ball. I don't know what it was, but it hit the side of my helmet, and I felt it hit my glasses. I was
Right.
glad I had sunglasses on. So, but again, when it's real sunny out, I want to make sure my eyes are protected anyway because it's so bright out. And the helmets that they make nowadays, the one that we have has a a covering, so it's a shield. But
Yeah.
sometimes I wear that shield up because I know I have sunglasses on. but the helmets nowadays have these little switch in it where you push it forward and these like little sunglass things come
Oh,
down in front of
nice.
your face, which
Yeah.
is great, but
Yeah.
which helps. That they didn't have that, 10, 15 years ago. So it's always good to make sure you have the proper gear on when you are riding because again you have to be aware of the elements around you, and in case you do get into an accident you want to make sure that you're properly geared up so you don't get it hurt as bad as you would have gotten hurt if you I know many people who did not make it out of motorcycle accidents because they did not have a helmet on.
Yeah.
But again, I lost a friend last year when I first moved here to Arizona. I met a guy who had a motorcycle group here. He was in his 30s, young guy, had a wife. They had two teenagers, two small kids, and then one grown son.
Wow.
Uh, they owned a business here, a couple businesses here in town. He had money flowing like out the yin yang. So he had a lot of motorcycles between him and his wife and kids and stuff. So they just motorcycles. And then he had some ATVs and stuff like that, but just motorcycles. They had 17 motorcycles. So they were just really loved. But he was an adrenaline junkie, and he was trying to
Mm.
go as fast as he could, as much as he could.
Wow.
He had all these ideas that he wanted to do, and uh, I was riding with the group for a while, but then I stopped because they rode so fast. Uh, I went on the last road trip I went on with them. I turned around and went home because they were going so fast. I lost them on the road, and I didn't know
Yeah.
where I was going because I was new to the area. So I said, you know what? These are not my people. I mean, they're nice people. I enjoy their company, and I still see them today, and I ride with them today, but for a different reason now because so that leader of the group went out on a ride. They allowed this one guy to come on the ride who had no experience whatsoever.
Oh.
But my friend was always welcoming, trying to help them and become better riders. Well, he ended up getting to an accident where he turned, and the guy who was in the back, who didn't have any experience, didn't have enough experience to know how to turn a certain way to get out of the way, and he
Oh.
ran into him.
Oh
He got his leg all bruised up. Then he got another brand new motorcycle. This motorcycle bike company called Kawasaki. They call it the H2. Now there's a motorcycle out by Suzuki called the Hayabusa. It's the fastest motorcycle on the road, production motorcycle. You buy it brand new, it'll do 180 miles an hour. It's a sport bike.
Whoa.
Well, he bought this new model called the H2, basically the Hayabusa 2 from another company. Out of the box, it'll do 201 miles an hour. And he tried to test that. And they were on a road that I know of that goes to this other town. And it's a restaurant, but along the road here in southern Arizona, which is kind of strange, all these wineries are there, and they do wine tastings and stuff like that. I don't go on that road because
Yes.
people coming off those
Yeah.
wine tastings are
Yeah, they've had
intoxicated.
some drinks. Exactly.
Yeah, too many drinks. And they were going down that road, and my friend who was in the back of the group saw him fly past him, and he had another guy on the back of the bike whose bike was broken that day, so he still wanted to go on the ride. So he got on the back of this brand new bike with him, and a car went to make a left hand turn, and then he made to go around the right hand side, but then the car switched and turned back right, and my friend hit that car, and then he flew and about 50 feet
Yeah.
and totally ripped his leg from his right leg completely off of his body.
Oh my gosh.
The guy who was on the back of the motorcycle said just before they hit the car, he had looked over to see how fast they were doing. He was doing 174 miles an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Your reaction time, you don't have a reaction time at that
No.
time. Now, he did take some extra classes for racing and stuff like that. But should you be doing this on a regular back road? No.
Definitely not a
And he's
road
no longer
that's
with us today.
heavily trafficked with people coming from the
Right,
wineries. And now you have someone
right,
else on the back of your bike that you're responsible for them too. It's kind of like when we
correct,
have passengers in our cars. It always
correct.
amazes me when I see SUVs flying past me, speeding down the road between LA and Vegas, and I look and it's like a family with kids and grandma probably in
Right.
there. And it's like, what are they thinking?
What are they thinking? And now the other guy on the back of the road, on the back of this bike, was also an adrenaline junkie. He ended up being in the hospital for a couple of weeks and had quite a few surgeries, and he's still doing. This was last summer, so he's still doing not so great. But yeah, it totally took his leg right off, and he bled out on the scene. And his wife made it to the scene, but yeah, I mean, now his wife has no
Yeah.
longer has her husband, has still has these four younger kids, and what do you do? And my one friend told me, even though this guy took classes and all that, he told me, he said he absolutely did everything wrong that you shouldn't be doing on a road because he was an adrenaline junkie,
Right.
and that cost him his life. Yeah, so not the best choices. You Everything we do throughout our lives is our own choice. We make the choice to do. If 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 you have a friend who is an alcoholic, you can tell your friend, "I will take you to classes. I'll keep you away from drugs and alcohol, keep you away from bars and all that stuff." Although who doesn't like a good strip club, whatever. But I
Yeah.
get it. But you can give them all the advice you want to, but until that person chooses to stop drinking, no matter what you say or do, isn't going to make a difference. So everything you do is pretty much in your control, unless you're just you are what we'd call disabled, and no, you have someone else has to make decisions for you. That's something different. But when you're capable of
Right.
making
Right.
decisions and this is probably not the best thing to do. But again, that's why I quit riding with those guys, because they were all doing that. When you ride in a group, you ride in like a formation where like
Mm-hmm.
airplanes do, one here and
Yeah.
one here.
Yeah.
You're going down the road like that. Uh, these guys were always passing each other. It's just doing dangerous things. Now, I have been on rides with them since that, but since this accident, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's like it takes some type of tragedy in order for people to change. It takes like some type of tragedy in these days. Oh, well, giving all my time to cancer and stuff like that. Well, you didn't do that before. Oh, well, but I just got cancer, or I had a friend who got cancer.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you just do it beforehand? You know,
Right.
it takes some type of hardship and for people to change. Haven't we seen enough?
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Haven't we seen enough of these issues that maybe we should, you know, take a second to think about what we're doing next?
Right. I
But
agree.
people don't. They just like to take chances. Uh, the people who that live in my town here in Sierra Vista, they're so kind and friendly and wonderful until they get behind the wheel of a car, and then they drive like maniacs. They pull out in front of you all the time. So I'm very I make sure I'm very aware of what's going on in my surroundings, you know? I was teaching that to my wife yesterday, where she's getting good at riding the bike, but she has to pay more attention to what's going on around her, pay attention to the speed limits, pay attention to the people around you, pay attention to the cars in front of you and behind you, because you never know how good a skill they are with their abilities. So because her being in this only a year now, that she's a new rider, she has to pay
Yeah.
attention more than just the motorcycle itself. So trying
And
to
I
give her
think
as much
that's
advice as I
wise
can.
for everyone is that we've become so consumed, I think, for whatever reason, at least I see it a lot in the United States where it's like, I want to do this, I want to go here, it's me, me, me. And we have to be much more aware of our full surroundings, whether we're driving a
Correct.
car. I tell it to photographers, just because you see something that you want to pull over and photograph, there's
Right.
other cars on the road, there's bicycles, there's motorcycles.
Yes.
You need to
People
plan
walking.
ahead, people walking, put a signal on well before. And if you go past the thing that you saw that you thought you wanted to pull over for, by all means go past and find a safe place to park or, turn around and make it your way back there. But all the time it's like people just
Sure.
last minute, they'll switch lanes even. They're in the wrong lane
Yes.
and then you see them just,
They go right
yes,
across the highway, 3 lanes all the way across,
yes.
straight in front of you. On my way out here to Arizona, I was had a trailer behind me. I had my motorcycle in it, and I saw a guy pull out onto the road from an on ramp he bypassed the whole on ramp and just came straight across the highway right in front of mine. And he had a truck and trailer, and I was like, and that was in Texas. Texas, worst drivers ever. So we had the worst experiences driving across the United States through Texas. Everywhere else, okay, but Texas, horrible drivers. But yeah, you never know if someone's walking a dog, and
Yes.
you got to pay attention and make sure because you see somebody getting pulled along by a dog, then you know that that dog is stronger than them. There's a possibility they may let go of that leash. And you know, uh, I saw a meme on Facebook the other day. There was a guy sitting there talking to a dog, and he says, I heard you were chasing people on a motorcycle the other day." And then the dog looks over and says, "He's lying. I don't own a motorcycle."
Right.
But yeah, you just never know what the you got to be. There are those times that we're going to get into what we call accidents, but there is that. But you can sometimes stay away from that by just paying a little bit more attention to your surroundings, what's around you, what's ahead of you, what's behind you. You
Right.
have mirrors on the bike, look in them.
Right.
You have,
Exactly.
you're coming to a four-way in a road, you have left and right and what's in front of you. Pay attention, because again, not everyone in front of you is paying attention.
Right.
We all seen the videos on YouTube where the near misses, there's such things, so
Yeah.
you don't want to be even a part of a near miss. I know maybe it might be a cool story for you later on, but who wants to do that? So I don't. So, you know, uh, then again, you have the elements around you as well, and birds and stuff like that. I mean, I had an instance where I was riding down the road and a bug hit me into my top lip,
Oh gosh. Yeah.
and then it crawled up my nose.
Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had to pull over and, I tried to
Yeah.
huff it out, but I couldn't, so I had to and then you're swallowing bug,
Yeah.
so, so I've had those instances, but there's a lot more other instances out there that would, could, or should happen or should not happen. You can pay attention and make sure that you're conscientious of who you are and what you are and what's around you to make sure that you're not going to get into an accident. But yeah, there's going to be fender benders and there's fatal accidents. But like I said, but when it's your time to go, it just is. But you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it was
Well, to leave it on a more positive note,
yeah.
I think,
Be conscientious.
yeah, and I think there's some beautiful places to ride in
Oh,
the United States. Just some
I've
incredible
been to some
places.
beautiful places. Yeah, again, one of my favorite smells is smelling pine trees or the honeysuckle or, yeah. I mean, you go outside of my house and you look to the left, and we have a place called Car Canyon, and there's just mountains right there, and they're just so beautiful to. I go down the road and just you're riding next to, you know,
Yeah.
2,000, 3,000 foot mountains, and right next to you. It's just amazing here, just beautiful. We go up into the mountains and you just look out into the valley and you can see for hundreds of miles here because there's not a lot of homes here. It's just open range here. So yeah, it's very beautiful. And I have really cool towns to go to. I have Tombstone to go to. There's another town near us called Bisbee
Oh
that's
yeah,
like 30 miles
Bisbee.
away, and yeah, it's beautiful there, and it's a very hippie town, but again, when you're riding through that town's straight uphill, so
Yeah,
you gotta
it
pay
is.
attention to
Yeah,
what you're
it
doing
is.
there, and the roads are very, two-lane road, but it's very skinny. But yeah, just beautiful, beautiful. Sonoyta's another one we went to yesterday, and yeah, it's just beautiful around here, and there's mountains everywhere, and the scenery is beautiful, but make sure you're paying attention to the road, not just the scenery itself.
Yeah, and just do your research. I always
Yeah.
recommend, like if you're looking to
Know where you're
go,
going.
know where you're going, look at the weather forecasts for the area. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure it's beautiful to watch those southwestern monsoons come in, but you also want to be
Yeah, but do you
aware.
wanna be in it? No, I
Right,
don't wanna
yeah.
be in it. Yeah, yeah, we have that. It's called monsoon season, where it starts in June and doesn't end till September.
Yeah. So are there other beautiful places besides your state of Arizona and Tennessee? You mentioned Tennessee.
Tennessee was really nice. I know I was in Delaware. I rode from Delaware up to New York, up to Upper New York. Back in the early 2000s, there was a TV show called Orange County Choppers that was on TV about the the Tuttles. It was a senior and junior, and they built motorcycles, and they had this shop, and then they built this really big shop. It was called OCC, and my one friend and I, Paul, we rode up to New Jersey, met my one brother, and then we left there and rode all the way up to New Bern, New York, and we went to the shop, and we took the tour. It's kind of like going to the zoo. You're behind glass, and the monkeys are all back there working. And then we the very next day they had a car show, and we stayed there for that. Um, we didn't think anything. Be very aware of where you're going, and if you're going to stay overnight. We didn't think anything of it. We just thought we would get a hotel. And when we got into town, they said, "Oh, you're coming up for the car show." We were like, "Not really, but
Yeah.
yeah, but sure." And they said, "Well, we're booked." There was 4 hotels near there. They were all booked. We got one room because of a cancellation. And there was 2 beds, and we had to roll in a bed. So make plans. Make sure if you're going to stay somewhere, you have a reservation or what have you, or and especially by the reservations of how much you're willing to pay for your reservation or your hotel room as
Yeah.
well.
And that's so
Because
true if there's certain times of the year. I know in New England, a lot of people like to go for fall foliage, and that's the same thing. You have a lot of
sure,
wonderful little towns, but they only have a handful of rooms, and those can book months in advance. So if you don't want to have to spend the $400 a night for a
right,
Saturday, you want to
right,
do a
yeah.
little pre-planning or go in the middle of the week and maybe save yourself some money that way.
Yeah, there's an event that's going on this coming weekend down in Tombstone. There's a couple of events. In Sierra Vista, there's a UFO convention, and then in Sierra Vista or in Tombstone, there's something that the American Legion is doing called Bikers for Boots. And then also during that weekend is Tombstone Wild West Paracon for
Hmm.
ghost hunters and stuff. And I'm actually going to be working there because that's what I do for a living. I'm what you would call a spirit medium. I see dead people and they communicate with me. So I'm working that as well. I'm going to miss the Bikers for Boots thing, but that place is going to be completely mobbed with people.
Oh yeah, I bet.
So you got to make sure if you're going to get a hotel room, you got to do it ahead of time. Or like if you go into a town that has NASCAR racing, you got to make sure if there's a race going on, hotels are going to be booked up. So make sure you get a hotel room early. But it's always good to try to plan ahead of time the best you can for the area that you're going to, because you may think, "Oh, I'm going to a sleepy little town," but maybe that sleepy little town's having an event and
Yeah.
everything's filled up. So
And I
be
think the
aware.
events are kind of happening a little bit more now that we've come out of the whole being locked down and all
Yeah,
of
the
that.
the whole 2020 mess.
Yeah,
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 exactly. The lost couple years, I call it. Yeah, so a lot of
yeah.
these small communities, like you mentioned, Tombstone, and go ahead and tell us a little bit more about what you do, Daniel. And since we segued into, because
My
Tombstone is,
professional name is I'm Spirit Medium Daniel. You see, there's a thing behind me. I wrote a book. My book is called Daniel Jackson, A New Beginning, My Awakening as a Spirit Medium. It's my life story about how I came into becoming a medium. I didn't know I was a medium until I was right before I was 50 years old, but I have seen spirit my entire life, and not just like one or two shadows type thing. Whenever people ask me, "So how often do you see spirit?" I say, "I don't ever not see spirit. I see them 24/7. The only time I don't see them is when I'm sleeping, but they do come into my dreams as well. But I see them everywhere. But I don't just see people. I see dogs, cats, horses, cows, fish. I see everything. Everything that has a soul, I see. Um, that's why I prefer you to ride your motorcycle and be as safe as you can because I don't want to see you in that way, because I will. So, but I see everything, and this is what I do for a living. I see them, I communicate with them, and I do readings for people because they want to know answers from the other side.
hmm,
But I don't communicate with just regular spirit. That's not who I primarily communicate with. I communicate with what we refer to as archangels. They're not men with wings. They don't have shields and swords and all that stuff. That's brought to you by the people who want to tell you how to live your life and the way they want you to live them, and give them 10% for it. And how do they know about 10% thousands of years ago? Because people who started that stuff were kings and queens. That's how they know it. So, but yeah, that's who I communicate with, and I get answers from them, and they touch my face for yes and no answers, and or they put thoughts into my mind, and people come to me because they want an answer from God. Problem is, not the big problem is I get the answer, but the problem is they don't like it. Why? Because it's the truth, and they don't the truth can't fit into their lifestyle. So, yeah, but they
A
still come
place
for
like
answers. I get them the answers,
a
but it's up to
place
them to
like
decide if they're going to use that information.
yeah, a place like Tombstone, you probably though just I would feel like there's probably all
No,
kind.
it's
No?
everywhere. That's a big misconception. You think
Okay.
people think that you have to go to a particular place to see spirit.
Yeah.
No, you can find the spirit in your own home or even at Walmart. They're everywhere because where they are, there's no sense of time and space. So they're just everywhere. As I explained it, some of them want to be seen, most of them don't, because now they're living life that's uninterrupted. But they are everywhere.
That's an
It's not the
interesting
they're not
thing.
all demons and devils and all that stuff. There's no demons and devils. There's no such place as hell and any of that stuff. There's just a lower energy place or a higher energy place. The higher energy place is what we call heaven, but it's just another place. It's just high energy. Or you remain here, what I would call earthbound. Earthbound, it's just a lower energy place. Are all of them horrible? No. If your mom and dad has passed away, are you going to believe that your mom and dad are now demons and devils because they passed away? No, they're still your mom and dad. So not everything is horrible, but there are negative energies out there. So don't mess with those. How do you stay away from those ones? Remain a positive person. But the more negative that you remain, the more you're inviting them to be around you. 9 times out of 10, when you have people have negative energies around them, it's because they're a piece of crap. That's why. They don't want to admit that to you, but they are. The only way that you can make these things go away is by being a positive person. You can't do the smudging and all that stuff with the sage and all that because it does nothing. Because people don't understand. People want to do this a lot, get a lot into this business because they want to sell you something. Oh, I'm going to give you something, you can burn it and make those negative energies go away. Well, those negative energies or any other energy is in a place now where they no longer have a body, meaning they no longer have lungs and they can't smell and they can't breathe. So you burning something isn't going to make them go away. The only thing you're going to do at that point is set off your fire alarms.
Yeah.
As long as you put out good intentions, they will go away. That's the best advice I can give you. Be a positive person and put out good intentions. But if you're one of those people who walks around and wants to gossip about everybody and put all this stuff or I hate you and I hate you and I hate you, well, you put it out there, you get it back. They call it karma, but it's just you put it out there, you get it back. Don't put it out there. You don't have to be that way. Why? Because you can choose not to. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, no big deal. But yeah, that's what I do for a living, and I'm going to be at this Paracon thing on the weekend doing readings for people all weekend.
Does that get exhausting for you? Just tapping
Sure.
into these.
Well, it just it gets exhausting because people are always asking me questions, and we're talking a lot.
Yeah.
But I get a lot of energy from spirit because of something else that I do for them. I cross spirit over into the light, and so that that does take a lot out of me. But I'm here for a reason. I'm here to help as many people as I can. As that's what our purpose is. We're here to help each other just for the sake of helping, not because you can, but because you should. And as long as you continue to do that, you'll be punching your dance card so you don't have to come back again because people come back over and over and over again. I'm asking a question right now, and even though I'm talking to you, I'm asking them how many times you've been here, and they're telling me. So I'm asking the question, and then I just said, "Did you say that many number?" And they said yes, and they touched my face for yes, and you've been here 28 times. In other words, you've had 28 lifetimes. You're on 28 now. You've had 27 other sets of moms and dads, brothers and sisters, dogs and cats. Oh, and you've had 27 other astrological signs that mean absolutely nothing
Wow.
because it doesn't. Because your body is born under the stars, not your soul. Because you are a soul. You don't have a soul. You are a soul. What you have is this meat suit you're walking around in order for your soul to be here to learn lessons and fulfill a purpose. It learns from the body because we have free will. We have choices to make. So, but yeah, you're on number 28. Don't think it's not that bad because the average is between 26 and 29 times.
Okay.
I
That's
just
what I
did a
was.
reading for I did a reading for a woman last week. She's been here 36 times. She's really messing up. She's
Oh,
coming back again too. All right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Daniel. What's your website if people want to reach out
If
and
people
find
want to get
you?
a hold of me for
Yeah.
a reading, sure,
Yeah.
they can find me at it's one long word, www.spiritmediumdaniel.com, and they can book a reading, or if they
spiritmediumdaniel.com.
yep, spiritmediumdaniel.com. And if they want to book a reading, or if they feel as though they have this ability like I do, not everybody does have it. You can't go to school and get a diploma and say, okay, now I'm a spirit medium. You either have this or you don't. It comes through with your soul. Not everyone's meant to have it. Some of us are meant to be teachers. Others are just meant to be students. So they can, if they feel they have this ability and they want to move forward with it, I can help them with that as well. And they can contact me on there as well. Or if they want to read my book about my whole story, and then it
Yeah.
also has messages that these archangels gave me to help people become better people in society and help each other, because that's what we're here to do. And then in turn, you're helping someone, a good person, you're helping yourself at the same time. So they can find that. They go to Amazon and they put in the search bar Daniel Jackson, The New Beginning, My Awakening as a Spirit Medium. Put that all the way in there. And then you're going to see this picture. Uh,
It's behind
this
you, I
pic-
think.
yep,
Yeah.
there's one right there.
Yeah,
Uh,
nice.
and you see this man walking into the white light. That's me. But the new beginning is not about me; it's about everyone else. So, and then they can read that book, and hopefully it'll help them. And it also has my website in there too, if they feel they have the necessary need to get in touch with me. And I also have a group on Facebook called the Spirit Medium Daniel Group, and people join that. And I'm very vocal on that. I talk to that. I let people ask me questions on there all the time. So I'm not one of those people who's out of touch with people. I didn't write this book. I sell the book for $8. I make about $2.50 off the book. I did not sell this book to make money. I sold it to help people. So would I like to sell a million books? Yeah, but I'm just trying to help a million people. I'm not
Right.
just trying to make millions of dollars. I don't need that. I need to help each other because we all need to help each other. So that's why I sell it so cheaply. You can buy it for $8 on the paperback or $6.49 for an ebook. So yeah, but as long as it helps people, that's what I care about.
Wonderful. Thank you so
And that's
much.
it.
Yeah, well, that's it, Daniel. That's been very helpful. Thank you for all the tips on motorcycling. I think it's a
Oh yeah, yeah.
great way to get out and explore and really feel nature, smell it, see it. I think that more people need to just get outside after the last few years. And
Yeah, I'll tell you another big thing that's big around here in Arizona is something called a side by side, where it's like a vehicle. It's got four wheels in it, and
yeah.
it's like an off-road type vehicle, like a big giant dune buggy, but it goes faster and it's got a big roll bar in it. Down here in Arizona, they have like no rules as far as like driving anything on the street. I see golf carts on the street.
Oh, you do?
I see four-wheelers on the street. I see dirt bikes on the street, and I see these side by sides. I went to a motorcycle store one time, and I saw a guy sitting in one, and he's like, I was talking to him, and he said, "Yeah," he goes, "I was thinking about buying a truck, for my business, but this was more suitable for me, so I bought one of these instead." And he rides all. You're allowed to ride on the streets down here, everywhere. So, but they use them to go up. There's so many mountains and desert area. They use them to go all over the place. You can go up on the trails and ride around up in the mountains with these things, and yeah, they're pretty neat.
Wow, great.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. So you can come down here and possibly rent one of those, or like if you wanted to rent a motorcycle, the best idea to do that is go to like Harley Davidson. They really rent motorcycles. They are the best company for for renting motorcycles. There's another company called Eagle Riders as
Okay.
well, and they are renters as well. But when you're going to rent a motorcycle, it's going to cost you a few $100s for just a few days. It, so if that's what you want to do, fine. But it's easier to just have your own motorcycle, get the feel of your own motorcycle, be used to the way that your motorcycle operates, and go out and travel that way. I see people all the time with with campers, and they have one
Yes.
one that's called a toy hauler, and the
Yes.
toy hauler is it has a back door to it that opens up, and you can put your tool, your motorcycle in there, or your SUV, or your side by side in there, and then that's how you travel. And then when you stop and you camp somewhere, and then you pull the bike out, and then you go for rides. You know how like people will ride with a camper and they have a car
Yeah.
connected to the back of it. Well, sometimes these people have on a rack or on the inside a motorcycle in there, and this is how they travel. So, but you can go out there and rent motorcycles. Your average Harley Davidson will rent motorcycles. Your average Honda or Yamaha or Kawasaki place does not. Um,
That's
reason
good to
being,
know.
yeah, I
Yeah.
really have no understanding why the other places don't, but they're just more uh, concerned with selling motorcycles. But there are companies out there who will let you rent a motorcycle for a few days or a few hours and just to go out and travel around just in a different way. But
Yeah, because I
it
do
is,
get contacted. There's a lot of, especially Germany. I guess Germany has, and some other European countries
yeah,
too,
Europe is
are,
way different than the United States. Yeah, way
yeah,
different.
our landscape is just so different. And I guess
Yes.
there's a romanticism to, the Old West or Route 66. So people do sometimes want to come from those places and explore still on a motorcycle. So it's good to know that,
Yeah, Route 66 comes up through here in Arizona, but it's the upper part of Arizona.
yeah.
I mean, I'm in the very lower part. I don't know if I'm ever, there's so much, this state is so big. I don't know if I'm ever going to get out of this state, whereas Delaware, you can be out of it in 10 minutes. Where here, Yuma, from where I am, Yuma, Arizona is 8 hours away, so,
Wow.
and New Mexico is I think 5 or 6 hours away from me. So I can get into regular Mexico, which is 20 minutes away from my home, whereas any of the other states, even Texas, is a good 5 or 6 hours away from me. So there's a lot of
Hmm.
area that you can cover here without having to even go out of this state. But I know people who are riding here and going up to Sturgis, and
Oh,
and
right.
that's like I think 12 or 16 hours away. So you
Yeah.
do you do what you want to do, and you feel you're best at doing it. But I do like I said, saw a guy recently online this morning who got into an accident because he blacked out because he was not hydrated enough. He was fatigued because he decided to take a trip to see how far he wanted to go from Florida to California. He didn't make it.
Oh,
He's
geez.
fine, but his motorcycles are wrecked because he blacked out, literally just on
Um,
the road, just for a second there, and that was it. So be very not health conscious as well too. I have to take precautions myself. I'm diabetic, so you got to take precautions on what you're going to be out in the elements. It's going to take a wear and tear on your body, on your physical mind and your thought process. So be very aware of what you're doing and try to be as safe as you can. And while you're planning that trip, take stops, take breaks. To make sure you get enough rest before you're going to go out and enjoy yourself. But in order to enjoy yourself, you have to be healthy enough to do that. So
yeah,
be
exactly.
very aware.
Yeah. Thank you again, Daniel. And his website again is Daniel Jackson Spirit Medium.com.
Just
Yeah.
www.spiritmediumdaniel.
Okay, I did it all wrong. So
Yeah, you were
sorry
close.
about that. So I'll
No
put that
big
all
deal.
in the
They
show
could just
notes
look.
as well.
They could look me up in Google. Yeah, just Google Spirit Medium Daniel on Google, and you'll find me.
There you go. Thank you so much, Daniel. It's been fabulous. Thank you for all the
Oh,
information.
thank you. I enjoyed myself. Again, I always talk about. I'm always talking on. I've probably done in the past 2 years. I've done probably 150 or 160 different podcasts, include I do my own as well, but I've done guest spots, and I'm always talking about dead people, because when my phone message goes off, when I get a message on my phone, it's from that movie, The Sixth Sense. It's the
Oh,
little boy
yeah.
going, "I see dead people," and and
Oh,
people
and
hear
that's
that and they
your,
go,
oh no.
yeah, they always look at me and they always say to me, "I see them too," and I said, "No, I really see them," and then I start talking about, it and they go, "Oh." Okay, well, you know, so that's what I'm used to do. All the shows that I've been on, I've been talking about spirit. I've never get to go on a show and talk about my motorcycle trips, and that's a large part of my life that people don't realize that I do that.
Yeah.
They think because I talk to archangels and I see spirit all day long, this is all that I do, and it is a large part of my life, but I'm still human. I still want to go out and enjoy myself and enjoy my life, and I just choose to do it on two wheels.
Yeah, and I think that's fabulous. I
Yeah,
just
it's
really,
fun.
Yeah. And being outside, so I'm glad you're getting outside and doing more than just seeing spirits.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I got to make sure because I like to, have my skin. I have to make sure that I put the correct amount of because I'm super white. So I gotta make sure I put on all the protection and all that stuff on my skin because that heat really gets me out here. So yeah, I
Yeah.
got to make sure that I don't get all burnt up.
Well, thanks everyone for listening and watching, and I'll have the information in the show notes, everyone. Thanks again, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. And my best advice out there is be good and try not to do any stupid stuff. But you do, don't get caught.